Admiral Kate Thompson stood at the podium, her weathered hands gripping its edges as she faced the United Earth Defense Council. The massive chamber, with its sweeping glass ceiling showing the stars above, felt suffocating despite its size. 50 pairs of eyes stared back at her with mounting skepticism. "The deep space array doesn't lie," she said, her voice steady despite the frustration building in her chest. "These signals show quantum signatures unlike anything we've ever encountered. They're moving in formation, and they're headed straight for our solar system." Counselor Roberts, a former tech billionaire who'd never seen a day of combat, leaned forward with that condescending smile she'd grown to hate. "Admiral Thompson, with all due respect, you're asking us to divert 60% of our defense budget based on what amounts to anomalous sensor readings." The holographic display behind her showed the approaching fleet, massive ships that defied conventional physics. They moved through space like sharks through water, leaving ripples in the fabric of reality itself. "These aren't anomalous readings," Thompson countered, pulling up the comparative analysis. "We've recorded similar signatures from the quantum drive tests in the Kuiper Belt. But these," she highlighted the energy outputs, "these are thousands of times more powerful. Whoever built these ships has mastered quantum mechanics on a scale we can barely comprehend. And you believe they're hostile?" This from General Martinez, one of the few council members who hadn't immediately dismissed her warnings. "What I believe," Thompson chose her words carefully, "is that any civilization advanced enough to field a fleet like this doesn't send it across the galaxy for a friendly chat." Across the galaxy, in that same moment, Empress Vathera of the Zextal Empire reclined on her crystalline throne. The throne room of the Imperial flagship stretched for half a kilometer, its transparent walls showing the glory of her empire. 10,000 worlds, 100,000 ships, and uncountable subjects, all bound by the perfect order of Zextal rule. "Show me these. Humans again," she commanded, waving a graceful hand through the holographic display. The image shifted to show Earth's pitiful defense fleet. Primitive fusion drives, crude projectile weapons, and artificial satellites that barely deserved the name. Fleet Commander Zexalar, her youngest and most eager servant, bowed low. "They appear to be in the early stages of quantum research, Your Radiance. Their attempts at manipulation are crude at best. And their military capability." The Empress's tone suggested she asked merely out of routine rather than genuine interest. "They fight among themselves constantly, Your Radiance. Their ships are designed to combat equally primitive vessels. They would pose no threat to even our smallest scout ships." Vathera nodded, already bored with the discussion. Another primitive species to add to her collection. Another world to be shaped by the perfect order of the Empire. Send the standard conquest fleet. I expect their surrender within a standard week. "There is one peculiarity, Your Radiance." Zexalar hesitated. "Their warfare. It's chaotic, unpredictable. All primitive species are chaotic, Commander." Vathera dismissed his concerns with a wave. "That's why they need our guidance. That's why we bring order to the galaxy. Now go. Show these humans the futility of resistance." Back on Earth, Thompson left the council chamber, her warnings once again ignored. As she stepped into her office at Lunar Command, she pulled up the latest sensor data. The quantum signatures were stronger now, clearer. She could almost see the shape of the ships behind them. "They think our ships are nothing," she muttered, initiating a priority call to her old friend at the Quantum Research Division. "Computer, connect me to Dr. James Sullivan at QRD." The Empire was coming, whether the Council believed it or not. And if they wouldn't prepare officially, she'd do what humans did best. Adapt, improvise, and find a way to survive. Even if it meant breaking every rule in the book. Lieutenant James Maverick Mitchell watched Mars die. The Red Planet's largest colony, Armstrong City, vanished in a flash of quantum fire that turned the surrounding plains to glass. Through the viewport of his patrol ship Starcatcher, he watched fragments of homes, hydroponics domes, and human lives scatter across the Martian surface. "This is Lieutenant Mitchell to all surviving mining stations." His voice stayed steady even as his hands shook. "Fall back to the asteroid belt. I repeat, fall back to the belt." The Zextal ships moved like liquid mercury through space, their quantum drives leaving ribbons of distorted reality in their wake. Beautiful, if you could forget they'd just murdered 30,000 colonists. "Negative on that fallback, Lieutenant," came the response from Mining Station Delta. "We've got 200 civilians here who can't evacuate in time." Mitchell looked at his tactical display. 3 mining stations, 600 civilians total, and his lone patrol ship against 5 Zextal cruisers. The math was brutal. The choice was impossible. He made it anyway. "All stations, execute Protocol Omega. Give me control of your mining charges. Now." The asteroid belt had been humanity's primary source of heavy metals for decades. They'd honeycombed hundreds of rocks with mining charges, ready to break up the valuable asteroids for easy processing. Not a weapon by any traditional definition. Mitchell had never been good at traditional. "Computer, plot me a course through the densest part of the belt. And give me control of the electromagnetic tethers." "Warning," the computer responded. "Proposed course exceeds safe navigation parameters. Override safety protocols. Authorization Mitchell 007. The Starcatcher accelerated into the belt, its fusion drive burning hot enough to leave a trail visible to the naked eye. The Zextal ships followed, their quantum drives effortlessly compensating for the gravitational pull of the asteroids. Perfect, predictable movements. Mitchell fired the first mining charge. The explosion was tiny by military standards, barely enough to crack a medium-sized asteroid. But the fragments created a chain reaction in the belt's magnetic field, something the quantum sensors of the Zextal ships hadn't been calibrated to handle. Their perfect formation wavered. He fired 3 more charges, not at the ships but at specific asteroids chosen for their high iron content. The electromagnetic tethers, designed to guide valuable ore to collection points, instead caught the fragments and accelerated them like massive shotgun pellets. The first Zextal cruiser died ingloriously, holed by a piece of rock moving at a significant fraction of light speed. Their quantum shields, designed to stop energy weapons and conventional projectiles, hadn't been programmed to recognize simple rocks as threats. Impossible. The Zextal commander's transmission cut through all frequencies. "Your weapons are primitive. Your ships are nothing." "You're right," Mitchell responded, firing another pattern of charges. "They are nothing. That's why you don't see them coming." The second cruiser fell to a combination of magnetic interference and velocity-accelerated asteroid fragments. The third tried to quantum jump to safety and materialized inside a cloud of metallic dust. The fourth and fifth retreated, their perfect formations broken, their confidence shattered. Mining Station Delta. Status report. "Civilians evacuated, Lieutenant. We used the battle as cover to get our ships clear. That was one hell of a fight." Mitchell slumped in his chair, adrenaline giving way to exhaustion. Not a fight. A lesson. He pulled up the tactical data from the engagement, making sure every detail was recorded. "Get this to Admiral Thompson at Lunar Command. The Empire needs to learn that primitive doesn't mean harmless." As the Starcatcher limped back toward Earth, he looked one last time at Mars, at the glassy crater that had been Armstrong City. Humanity had just learned the cost of underestimating an enemy. But the Empire was about to learn something far more important. There's no such thing as a primitive weapon in the hands of a species that spent its entire history learning new ways to fight. The real war was just beginning. Commander Ashley Cooper watched the evacuation ship streak past her bridge viewport, each one packed with civilians fleeing Earth. The U.S. Arizona, her faithful destroyer, hung in Jupiter's shadow alongside the remnants of humanity's defense fleet. "Quantum signatures detected," her tactical officer, Lieutenant Sarah Rodriguez, reported. "Big ones. They're not even trying to hide their approach." Cooper nodded, her fingers drumming against her command chair. "Why should they? After Mars, they think they know exactly what we can do. She pulled up the tactical display, studying Jupiter's swirling storms. And what we can't. The Zextal battle fleet emerged from quantum space like a school of predators, their crystalline ships catching the distant sunlight. The formation was perfect, each vessel positioned with mathematical precision. Cooper counted 30 capital ships, each one capable of reducing a continent to ash. "Commander," her communications officer cut in. "They're broadcasting on all frequencies." "Put it through." The holographic display showed a Zextal commander, his metallic skin and multifaceted eyes reflecting the light. "Primitive vessels, you have witnessed our power. Surrender now, and we will show mercy. Resist, and you will join the inhabitants of Mars." Cooper stood, straightening her uniform. "This is Commander Ashley Cooper of the U.S. Arizona. Before you get too comfortable with your superiority, I have a question." She paused, letting a small smile play across her lips. "How much do you know about gas giants?" The Zextal commander's expression shifted slightly. "Your attempts at distraction air." Cooper cut the transmission. "All evacuation ships, execute emergency quantum jump on my mark. Engineering, divert all power to the magnetic shields. Navigation, take us into Jupiter's atmosphere." "Ma'am." Rodriguez looked up from her station. The Arizona wasn't designed for a lot of things, Lieutenant. That's what makes her perfect for this. The destroyer plunged into Jupiter's upper atmosphere, its hull groaning under the strain. Behind them, the Zextal fleet followed, their quantum drives easily compensating for the gas giant's pull. "They're launching fighters," Rodriguez reported. "Standard attack pattern." Cooper watched the enemy ships arrange themselves into their perfect formation. "Standard for them, maybe. Lieutenant, arm the modified mining charges, the ones we adapted after Lieutenant Mitchell's asteroid gambit." The Arizona's hull temperature climbed as they descended deeper into Jupiter's atmosphere. Warning lights flashed across every console. "Hull integrity at 60%, engineering reported. We can't take much more of this." "We don't need to," Cooper replied. "We just need them to follow their perfect tactical doctrine. Execute Operation Thunderhead. Now." The modified mining charges detonated in a precise pattern, their explosions tiny compared to Jupiter's vast atmosphere. But they weren't meant to damage the enemy ships. Instead, they triggered a cascade reaction in the gas giant's metallic hydrogen layer. For a moment, nothing happened. Then Jupiter's atmosphere erupted. A massive electromagnetic storm, far larger than anything in Earth's history, bloomed in the wake of the explosions. The Zextal ships, their quantum drives dependent on precise mathematical calculations, suddenly found themselves in a sea of chaos. "All evacuation ships, jump now," Cooper ordered. "Engineering, emergency thrust. Get us clear." The Arizona clawed its way out of Jupiter's atmosphere as the storm expanded behind them. The Zextal fleet, their perfect formation shattered by the electromagnetic interference, scattered in confusion. 3 of their capital ships, their quantum drives miscalculating in the chaos, materialized inside each other. "Ma'am," Rodriguez's voice was barely a whisper, "the Arizona's hull integrity is failing. We won't survive the jump to Earth." Cooper nodded. "I know. But they followed us in, just like they followed Mitchell into the asteroid field. Sometimes the best weapon isn't a weapon at all." She opened a channel to the evacuation fleet. "This is Commander Cooper. The Arizona's buying you time. Tell Earth. Tell them that perfect isn't always better." The last thing Cooper saw before ordering her crew to the escape pods was the Zextal fleet, their magnificent ships being torn apart by the storm they'd been too proud to fear. Sometimes, she realized, the most primitive solution was the most effective one. Jupiter's storm would rage for months, a testament to humanity's unconventional defense of their home. Dr. Michael Sullivan hadn't seen natural sunlight in 3 months. The underground bunkers beneath what remained of Silicon Valley hummed with stolen Zextal technology, their crystalline components casting ethereal shadows on the concrete walls. "Show me the quantum signature analysis again," he told his AI assistant, Nova. The holographic display flickered to life, showing the intricate patterns of a captured Zextal drive core. "Analysis indicates their quantum technology operates on perfectly predictable patterns," Nova reported. "They've eliminated uncertainty from the equation entirely." Sullivan ran his hands through his graying hair. "That's their weakness. They've removed the very thing that makes quantum mechanics work." He turned as Major Rebecca Hayes entered the lab, her combat armor still bearing scorch marks from her last engagement. "Please tell me you've got something," Hayes said. "We lost 3 more ships this morning trying to protect the Atlantic defense line." Sullivan gestured to the quantum core. "They're fighting quantum mechanics itself, and they don't even realize it." He pulled up another display showing human quantum experiments. "Look at our early attempts. We embraced the uncertainty, worked with it instead of trying to eliminate it." "That's fascinating, Talk, but how does it help us kill their ships? What if we could use uncertainty as a weapon?" Sullivan's eyes lit up with the fever of discovery. "Their systems are built on perfect prediction, but quantum mechanics isn't about perfection. It's about probability." Hayes leaned over the display. "You want to weaponize probability?" "Better." Sullivan grinned. "I want to merge our AI systems with their quantum tech. Create something they've never imagined. A hybrid system that doesn't just accept uncertainty, but thrives on it." The next 12 hours passed in a blur of calculations and calibrations. Sullivan's team worked frantically, merging Nova's neural networks with the captured quantum core. Hayes watched, her tactical mind already seeing the military applications. "Core merger complete," Nova announced. "Quantum AA fusion stable. Processing capability unknown. The uncertainty is beautiful." Sullivan checked the readings. "The hybrid system isn't just working. It's creating new quantum states we've never seen before. Major, we need a ship to test this." "My Nighthawk is prepped and ready," Hayes replied. "We've got nothing to lose at this point." The installation of the hybrid system took another 6 hours. Hayes' ship, already one of the most advanced in Earth's fleet, hummed with new power. The quantum AI fusion core pulsed with possibilities. "All systems operational," Nova reported through the ship's speakers. "Quantum probability matrices active. Major Hayes, I suggest you hold on tight." Hayes launched the Nighthawk from the underground facility. Above, 3 Zextal cruisers patrolled the ruins of San Francisco Bay. "They've spotted us," Hayes reported back to Sullivan's bunker. "Moving to engage." The Zextal ships fired their quantum weapons, the beams of energy perfectly calculated to intercept the Nighthawk's predicted course. But the hybrid system saw possibilities they couldn't imagine. The Nighthawk didn't just evade. It seemed to exist in multiple states simultaneously. Hayes felt reality blur around her as Nova calculated quantum probabilities faster than any human mind could process. "Impossible," the Zextal commander broadcast. "Your movement patterns defy our targeting matrices." Hayes smiled. "That's the point." She fired the Nighthawk's modified weapons, each shot guided by quantum probability rather than certainty. The first Zextal cruiser disappeared in a cascade of conflicting realities. The second tried to quantum jump away but found its calculations disrupted by the Nighthawk's probability field. "Dr. Sullivan," Hayes called back to the bunker. "I think it works." In his underground lab, Sullivan watched the sensor feeds with tears in its eyes. "We didn't try to beat their technology," he said quietly. "We just reminded the universe that uncertainty is part of its fundamental nature." The third Zextal ship followed, carrying word of a new human weapon that turned their greatest strength into their ultimate weakness. The Empire was about to learn that sometimes the greatest innovations come not from perfecting nature, but from embracing its chaos. Colonel Jack Reynolds watched the converted cargo ship's systems power down to near zero through the dim red emergency lighting of his bridge. The Phantom, once a humble ice hauler from Saturn's rings, now drifted silent as space itself among the debris field of a former Zextal supply convoy. "Status report," he whispered into his command comm. Even though sound couldn't travel in space, years of guerrilla warfare had taught the Ghost Fleet crews to whisper when running silent. 6 supply ships neutralized. Lieutenant Emma Chase responded from her position in engineering. Their quantum distress signals never made it out of our dampening field. Salvage teams are moving in now. Reynolds allowed himself a small smile. 6 months ago, they'd been civilian cargo pilots and miners. Now they were the Empire's worst nightmare, a fleet that struck without warning and vanished without trace. "Sir," his sensor officer cut in, long-range arrays picking up quantum signatures, big ones. Looks like they finally figured out where their supply ships went missing. Time to disappear. Reynolds straightened in his chair. All Ghost Fleet vessels, execute Shadow Protocol. Remember, we're nothing but debris until I say otherwise. The salvage teams, working in suits designed to mask their heat signatures, quickly finished stripping the sextile wreckage of useful technology. The Ghost Fleet ships, their hulls covered in sensor-absorbing materials salvaged from asteroid mining operations, powered down to minimal life support. 3 Imperial dreadnoughts emerged from quantum space, their crystalline hulls gleaming against the backdrop of Saturn's rings. They'd moved in their characteristic perfect formation, scanning for signs of the attackers. "Hold position," Reynolds ordered as one of the dreadnoughts passed within kilometers of his ship. The Phantom's hull creaked softly as nearby quantum waves distorted local space. "Enemy commander is broadcasting," Chase reported. "They're frustrated." Reynolds switched to the enemy channel, letting their words fill his bridge. "These primitive raiders must be found." The sextile commander's voice crackled with rage. "They're using obsolete ships, outdated technology. They should be visible to our quantum sensors." "That's where you're wrong," Reynolds muttered. "We're not using outdated tech. We're using no tech at all." The Ghost Fleet had learned early that the Empire's quantum sensors were calibrated to detect active technology. They couldn't comprehend ships that simply shut down, that drifted like dead metal in space. The Empire's perfect sensors swept right past vessels they considered too primitive to be a threat. "Sir," Chase whispered urgently, their patrol patterns shifting. "They're about tow." "All Ghost Fleet ships," Reynolds cut in. "Pattern Omega. Now." The debris field erupted into motion. 24 ships, previously indistinguishable from wreckage, powered up simultaneously. The Empire's perfect formation, designed to counter active enemy ships, found itself surrounded by vessels that seemingly materialized from nowhere. "Fire the modified quantum charges," Reynolds ordered. The stolen and modified sextile weapons, combined with human ingenuity, created chaos in the enemy formation. The dreadnought shields, calibrated for head-on energy weapons, couldn't handle attacks coming from what their sensors insisted was empty space. "Impossible," the Imperial commander broadcast. "You're using simple fusion drives, primitive projectile weapons. You're nothing but." "That's right," Reynolds cut in on the channel. "We're nothing. We're background radiation. We're space debris. We're the ghost stories your sensor operators tell each other." He watched as the first dreadnought's quantum core destabilized. "And that's why you'll never beat us." The battle lasted less than 5 minutes. The Ghost Fleet vanished back into the darkness before Imperial reinforcements could arrive, leaving behind only wreckage and questions. In his command chair, Reynolds began composing his report to Earth Command. The Empire had brought their perfect ships, their superior technology, their unshakable belief in their own supremacy. But they never understood that sometimes being primitive meant being invisible to those who only looked for advancement. The Ghost Fleet disappeared back into the void, ready to haunt the Empire's nightmares once again. Captain Thomas Anderson stood in the U.S. Philadelphia's engine room, watching as human and sextile technology pulsed in an impossible dance. The hybrid drive core, a combination of quantum mechanics and fusion power, hummed with energy that shouldn't exist. "Sir," Chief Engineer Marcus Wong called from his station, "quantum fusion matrix is stable at 115%. She's actually getting stronger." Anderson nodded, placing his hand on the thrumming hull. The Philadelphia had started life as a standard destroyer, but now she was something else entirely. Something new. Something that had the Empire's scientists losing sleep. Multiple quantum signatures detected. Lieutenant Jessica Park announced over the ship-wide comm. 3 Imperial dreadnoughts just emerged from quantum space. They're charging weapons. Let them, Anderson replied, heading for the bridge. It's time to show them what happens when you don't play by the rules. The Philadelphia's bridge was a fusion of technologies itself. Holographic displays showed quantum probability fields alongside traditional sensor readings. The hybrid drive's energy signature fluctuated in patterns that made Imperial targeting systems glitch in confusion. "Enemy commander is hailing us," Park reported as Anderson took his command chair. The holographic display showed a Zextal officer, his metallic features arranged in an expression of disdain. "Surrender your abomination," he demanded. "Your merger of technologies is an offense against natural law." Anderson smiled. "You know what your problem is. You think there are rules to evolution. Computer, execute maneuver Sigma. The Philadelphia's hybrid drive engage. Reality bent. Not in the clean, mathematical way of Imperial ships, but in a chaotic wave that seemed to ignore physics itself. They didn't jump through space like Zextal ships. They surfed through it, riding waves of quantum probability. Impossible." The Imperial commander's face contorted. "Your trajectory violates every law of quantum mechanics." "No," Anderson replied as his ship appeared simultaneously in 3 locations. "It violates your understanding of quantum mechanics. There's a difference." The Philadelphia's weapons opened up. Streams of quantum-accelerated plasma, guided by probability fields that shouldn't exist, struck the first dreadnought. Its perfect shields, calibrated for weapons that followed the rules, might as well have been tissue paper. "Sir," Wong's voice came from engineering. "The hybrid core is learning. It's adapting to their defensive patterns in real time." That was the true beauty of their creation. While the Empire had spent millennia perfecting their technology, humans had created something that could evolve mid-battle. The Philadelphia didn't just fight. It learned. "Multiple quantum fluctuations," Park warned. "They're trying to predict our movement patterns." "Let them try." Anderson watched as his ship phased through space in ways that made Imperial sensors crash. "You can't predict chaos. That's the whole point." The second dreadnought attempted to quantum jump away. The Philadelphia's hybrid field interfered with their calculations, causing them to emerge exactly where Anderson's weapons were waiting. The third tried to coordinate its attack with the others, but found itself firing at quantum ghosts while the real Philadelphia appeared behind it. "Their shields are adapting," Wong reported. "But our core is adapting faster. We're actually getting stronger as the battle continues." Anderson opened a channel to all ships. "This is Captain Anderson of the U.S. Philadelphia. Your perfect technology, your unbreakable rules, they're just chains you've placed on your own evolution. We've learned to break the rules you never questioned." The remaining Imperial ships retreated, their perfect formation shattered, their certainty broken. They'd come expecting to find an abomination. Instead, they'd found the future. In his command chair, Anderson watched the hybrid core's readings stabilize. They'd proven that technology wasn't about following rules. It was about breaking them in just the right way. The Empire had spent 10,000 years perfecting their quantum drives. Humanity had spent 6 months figuring out how to make them dance. The Philadelphia hung in space, her impossible drives singing with new possibilities. She wasn't just a ship anymore. She was proof that sometimes the best way forward wasn't to climb the ladder of technological progress, but to knock it down and build something new from the pieces. Admiral Kate Thompson stood in Earth's Combined Defense Command, watching as the largest Imperial fleet ever assembled emerged from quantum space. The holographic display showed thousands of ships, led by the Empress's personal flagship, a vessel the size of a small moon. "All defense grid stations report ready," Dr. William Carter announced from his station. The physicist's eyes gleamed with anticipation as he monitored the massive solar array it had built around Earth's star. The sun is primed and ready. Who would have thought, Thompson mused, that our greatest weapon would be the very thing that gave us life? She opened a channel to all Earth forces. This is Admiral Thompson. Operation Solar Storm is now active. All ships, battle stations. The Imperial fleet approached with their characteristic precision, their formation a perfect geometric pattern that would have been beautiful if it wasn't meant for Earth's destruction. Enemy flagship is broadcasting, communications reported. It's the Empress herself. The holographic display shifted, showing Empress Vathera in all her crystalline glory. I have come to end this personally, she announced. Your resistance has been impressive, but it ends now. Surrender, and your species will survive as our servants. Thompson smiled. Your Radiance, before you continue, I have a question. In your 10,000 years of conquest, has any species ever turned their entire solar system into a weapon? The Empress's expression flickered. What? Now, Dr. Carter. Carter's fingers flew across his console. The massive solar arrays, hidden in the sun's corona, activated simultaneously. They weren't meant to harvest energy. They were designed to direct it. Solar plasma containment fields active, Carter reported. Magnetic bottling sequence initiated, converting the sun's natural processes into controlled weapon systems. The surface of humanity's star began to ripple, its natural solar flares being captured and directed by technology that merged human understanding of plasma physics with stolen Imperial quantum technology. Impossible, Vathera whispered. You can't control a star, the energy requirements alone. That's where you're wrong, Thompson cut in. We're not controlling it. We're asking nicely and getting out of the way. She nodded to Carter. Release the first wave. A massive solar flare, guided by quantum fields and magnetic containment systems, lashed out at the Imperial fleet. Their perfect formation scattered as ships tried to quantum jump to safety, only to find their calculations disrupted by the intense radiation. Second wave ready, Carter announced. The sun actually seems to be enjoying this. Energy output is 30% above predictions. The Empress's voice crackled across all frequencies. You'll destroy your own system. This is madness. No, Thompson replied. This is adaptation. Computer, execute pattern delta. Earth's defense fleet moved in precise coordination with the solar flares. Ships that had once been considered primitive now danced through streams of stellar plasma, using the sun's fury as cover and weapon alike. The Imperial fleet's perfect formation dissolved into chaos. Their quantum shields, designed to stop energy weapons, proved inadequate against the raw power of a star wielded with purpose. Ships vanished in flames hot enough to vaporize quantum-reinforced hulls. Multiple quantum core breaches detected, Carter reported with satisfaction. Their fleet is losing coherence. They can't maintain formation under these conditions. Thompson watched as the Empress's flagship attempted to coordinate a counterattack. They still don't understand. You can't fight a star with mathematics. You can't impose order on fusion itself. The solar arrays pulsed again, drawing forth another massive flare. This one was aimed directly at the Imperial flagship, its plasma precisely guided by human ingenuity and stellar physics. Final warning, your Radiance, Thompson broadcast. The next flare won't miss. Our star has had billions of years to perfect nuclear fusion. Your quantum technology is impressive, but it's still just copying nature's work. The Empress's flagship, for the first time in 10,000 years, began to retreat. Behind it, the Imperial fleet scattered, their perfect formations broken by the fury of a living star. Earth had turned its entire solar system into a fortress, and humanity had proven that sometimes the most primitive force in nature was also the most powerful. The battle that would be known as the 20-minute apocalypse began with a single command from Empress Vathera's flagship. Destroy everything, she ordered, her perfect composure finally shattered. No more precision. No more strategy. Burn their entire system to ash. Admiral Kate Thompson watched from Earth Command as the Imperial fleet abandoned 10,000 years of doctrine. Their ships broke formation, quantum drives pushing to impossible speeds as they charged the solar defense grid. They're desperate. Lieutenant Mitchell commented from his position at Tactical. The hero of the asteroid belt had been promoted and recalled to help coordinate Earth's final defense. They're actually fighting like us now. No, Thompson replied, a small smile playing across her lips. They're fighting like they think we fight. There's a difference. She opened a channel to all Earth forces. Execute final protocol. Show them what humanity really is. The defense grid activated, but instead of the expected solar flares, the arrays around the sun went dark. The quantum hybrid ships like the Philadelphia powered down. Even the Ghost Fleet's signature sensor shadows vanished. For a moment, the solar system seemed empty. What is this? Vathera demanded over all frequencies. Where are your weapons? Your primitive tricks? The answer came not in weapons fire, but in light. Hundreds of quantum-enhanced fusion drives ignited simultaneously, their energy signatures merging with solar radiation in patterns that made Imperial sensors crash. The Ghost Fleet emerged from seemingly empty space, their primitive ships moving with impossible precision. You thought we were chaos, Thompson broadcast. That humans were random, unpredictable, primitive. But we're something far more dangerous. She nodded to Dr. Carter at his station. We're adaptive. The solar arrays reactivated, not firing solar flares, but instead creating a web of magnetic fields that trapped the scattered Imperial ships. The Philadelphia and her sister ships appeared in quantum probability clouds that defied Imperial targeting systems. This is Commander Cooper, mission accomplished. The voice came from what had seemed to be empty space near Jupiter. The Arizona's last captain had survived, spending months preparing this moment. Quantum disruption field active. They're locked in normal space. The Empire's ships, stripped of their quantum jump capability, found themselves trapped in a killing field of their own making. Their scattered formation, meant for overwhelming force, instead left them vulnerable to attacks from every direction. Now, Thompson ordered, show them what humanity really is. Earth's combined fleet struck as one. Ghost ships emerged from sensor shadows, their primitive weapons enhanced by stolen quantum tech. The Philadelphia and her sisters phased through space in ways that broke Imperial physics. And through it all, the solar arrays wove a web of plasma and magnetism that turned space itself into a weapon. The Empress's flagship, the pride of 10,000 years of Imperial might, died not to a single mighty blow, but to 1,000 cuts from technologies she had dismissed as worthless. Her final transmission was cut short as her quantum core collapsed, taking a third of her fleet with it. The 20-minute apocalypse ended not with a grand explosion, but with silence. The remaining Imperial ships, faced with the full might of human innovation, surrendered. Hours later, Thompson stood before the United Earth Defense Council in the same chamber where she had first warned of the Imperial threat. The Empire called our ships nothing, she said to the assembled leaders. They were right, in a way. We are nothing like them. We don't perfect a single path. We forge new ones. We don't master nature. We work with it. We don't impose order. We adapt to chaos. She gestured to the displays showing the aftermath of battle. And now we have a choice. We could build an empire of our own. Or we could do something truly radical. Teach the galaxy that primitive doesn't mean inferior. That progress isn't a straight line. That sometimes the best way forward is to step back and see a new path entirely. The council voted unanimously. Humanity would not become conquerors. Instead, they would become teachers, showing the galaxy why imagination would always trump perfection. Among the stars, a new age dawned, and it began with the species that turned nothing into everything.